I've got that privileged role in terms of making sure that we are driving the change that we need in our country to make sure that we're best prepared and being able to, in terms of readiness, in terms of response and recovery. We need to be working together, we need to be sending out a strong message, and we need to be making sure that that message filters down.
Awesome, Kia whānau, welcome to another great podcast we have today. So I'm very excited about this. It's been a while we're trying to make it happen, but it's happening here. And I am co-hosting it today with my colleague Rata. Rata, how are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you today, Kodran?
I'm good, thank you. So would you tell the audience
I'm very excited to get to announce the Right Honourable Mark Mitchell's in studio today. How are you today, Mark?
Very good, but I have to say that Fleur was saying to me that we've cancelled a few times, right?
That's right.
And today we were down in Christchurch because we had another weather event overnight, and we got there about a minute to spare to check in and get on our flight. So we made it because we didn't want to have to cancel again.
Amazing. So thank you so much for making time, and we really acknowledge the amount of portfolio and the work that's needed to run this country. So because of cancellation, we'll go 5 minutes, a little bit more than time.
Absolutely.
Fair,
absolutely,
right?
that's fair.
Yeah. Right. So I want to start with this. This is how we start with all the guests. If we give you the mic, how you would love to introduce yourself. Tell us how you want.
You put me right on the spot there, haven't you?
We have, yeah.
So I have to say that normally a politician is like a magnet to a mic, right? But I have found it very hard coming into politics because my entire adult life, the jobs that I've had have been very much under the wire. And so it's been a matter of me trying to get used to doing the media and being in that environment. And I still don't enjoy it, but it's an important part of the role. So you put me on the spot by saying, introduce yourself. I guess what I'd say is, my name's Mark Mitchell. I was born in 1968 at National Women's Hospital in Auckland. I was very lucky to grow up in a very strong family environment where public service was really important to us as a family. I left school very early. I left school at 15, and part of my problem that we found out later is that I had a learning disability. So a form of dyslexia, and it impacted the way that I engaged with my schooling, which meant that I left very early, 15. But I found my way in life, and fundamentally it was because I held fast to the values that my family had given me, and that is whatever you are doing, do your best. And what I found is through life that has opened doors and created opportunities for me that I may not have otherwise have had, because I really didn't have any secondary schooling behind me.
Wow.
So I sort of, after that I went shepherding, I went farming. I absolutely love that lifestyle. To this day, I still say it was some of my best days. There's something about being out on the big country with your team of dogs, with your mates, and taking in the beautiful nature that our country offers. And then I went into policing. That sense of public service was something I knew that I'd always do something. And policing is what drew me, and I absolutely love my policing career as well. I had a policing career of about 14 years. For different reasons I left that, primarily because I had picked up some injuries along the way, and so I realised that I loved being a frontline police officer. I wasn't really that interested in taking promotion and working away from the front line and moving away from the front line. So that's when I left, and then I was presented with an opportunity to travel to Iraq in 2002 as part of the advanced party to set up the security and risk management program for what was then the interim government, the Coalition Provisional Authority, that was put in place to govern Iraq after the topple of Saddam Hussein. I stayed in the Middle East for about 10 years. I had a couple of roles up there, but basically I joined quite the biggest Middle Eastern logistics company, which then became a very big global logistics company, and I took on the responsibility for the health and safety of our people. who specialised in providing logistics support and services into high threat and contingency type environments. And then my family was sort of growing up as expat kids and overseas, and I had a really strong desire to come home, and I wanted to get back into public service again. And that is when I ran for Parliament in 2011 and was lucky enough to be voted in, and I've been in Parliament since then.
Amazing. What a journey.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Two things I want to just follow up questions on this. First, let's talk about Iraq. How was the food?
The food was great. I loved my time in the Middle East.
Right. Have you picked some language?
Shui shui.
Shui shui. Okay, that's a good start. Shui shui.
But I loved it up there. Coming from New Zealand, which is, I still feel, is the most beautiful country in the world, and the best place to raise kids.
Right.
What struck me about Iraq was the history of the place. When you get to visit places like Old Basra, or the lost city of Ur, or the Eden, the Garden of Eden, you're reminded about the rich history of somewhere like Iraq, and it was heartbreaking to see the conflict and what had damaged and ripped the country apart. And that had been going on for years, really starting with the Iran-Iraq conflict. One of my roles when I was up there was as an embedded advisor to what was called the TSU, the Tactical Support Unit. It was the same as our AOS or STG over here. That was really demanding work because of the complexity of the environment that we were operating in. And but I thoroughly enjoyed that challenge,
Right. Yeah.
and I made very close friendships that have endured, that I still have today.
Yeah.
So I have a real passion for Iraq. My bucket list is to take my family back there one day and to go and visit some of the places that I was lucky enough to live in,
Right.
and for them to experience the culture and the heritage, because it's a very special place.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. That's because I'm originally from there.
Yes, so you're a
But-
bit biased on that one,
Yes.
but,
Right, yeah.
and
Well-
probably biased towards the north a bit there as well. But no, it is. It's a very special place with
Yeah, it is.
a rich, deep history. So I
Absolutely.
will go back there one day.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Thank you for sharing this part with us. The other one was striking me all this journey. It's really I'm thinking about in somehow when you were young yourself. What made you that decisions? I want to take this path. I want to, because you talk about you've been dropped off from school, and then
Yeah, I struggled
what
with
was
school.
that?
I really struggled with school, and now and I understand why. And really, I wanted to get into public service. Like I said, I grew up in a family. All of my family had performed public service in one way or another, and so I always knew that. I looked at Defence Forces because my dad, my uncles, my grandfathers, they had all had long careers in New Zealand Defence Forces, and I sort of looked at that and I thought, to be honest with you, I don't know if I'll handle the discipline in the Defence Forces. But I looked at the police. That wasn't quite as rigid as Defence Forces, and I thought, no, that's what I'd like to do. So I was very young. I was 20 years old when I joined the police.
Amazing.
And like I said, it's just a wonderful way of doing your public service.
Great.
There are so many different interesting careers that you can have inside the police. There's a very strong culture of camaraderie, and there's nothing more satisfying than actually being able to help other people.
Yeah, beautiful, amazing. Right. Huh?
I mean, you've had an absolutely incredible journey, but it's also been, at least when I hear it now, it's also been very, very challenging. And I love how you speak about your values of, doing your best at whatever you do. But I was just wondering, how did those values kind of guide you and keep you going through some of the difficult times of the police and being the Middle East and all those kinds of things? There's been lots of highs and lows, but how do you values shape you
I've
through?
always been, really good question, Rada. I think when I think about it, I've always been inspired by my family. So we have a very close family. And I think back to, and our generations now are forgetting about the sacrifices that we made as a country in the First World War and the Second World War. And I sort of grew up, my grandparents would never talk about it, but other members of the family would. My grandmother, who drove an ambulance through the streets of London while it was being bombed.
Wow.
To get to people. My grandfather, who was a 23-year-old, was strapping himself into bombers and flying them back heavily damaged and getting out and then going and getting into another one. I mean, that's real public service and that's real sacrifice, because every time you're doing that, you're doing it knowing that you may not come home. And they did that to give us the democracy of the country that we have today. You know, my father, the sacrifices that he made. My mum, who has been involved in public service her whole life, who continues to work today with victim support, and who more often than not will cancel a family lunch on a Sunday because she's out supporting someone that's lost a loved one or has been a victim of crime. So it's not hard when you have people like that to inspire you, and who your examples in life are, to actually really embrace and do the things that I do. I think sometimes, if I'm really honest, there's always that sort of drive to measure up to that generation, but we actually will never be able to, because they were given. It was in a time where there was enormous human sacrifice being made to protect what we have today. And we should never take for granted what we have today, because the generations before us sort of were willing to make those sacrifices for us.
Amazing. How great
Beautifully
is this?
said, yeah.
And the passion from family, the desire of the service for the country. This is great, inspiring. You want to go for the other one, or should I go for my other questions?
Go for your question next.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You definitely have. How many portfolio you have?
We've got a few, Flu. If I run through my portfolios, I've got police, which I asked the Prime Minister for. Corrections, which I also asked the Prime Minister for. And then I've also got, and now I've picked up some other portfolios, ethnic communities, which I love. I've got sport and recreation, which I wish I had more time for, and I don't. I've got serious fraud office, and I'm missing one. How could I forget emergency management?
the other thing's keeping you busy these days, yeah.
That has been hugely demanding in terms of time, but I'm very proud to have that portfolio, because as a country we have to get better and better at this, and I've got that privileged role in terms of making sure that we are driving the change that we need in our country to make sure that we're best prepared and being able to, in terms of readiness, in terms of response and recovery, with these weather events or whatever is thrown at us, because we're a country that, as the incoming minister, I had got this briefing and it said, you're going to deal with a lot of weather events, and oh, by the way, in terms of risk matrix, there's only one country that carries more risk than us around the world, and that's Bangladesh.
Wow.
So when you think about it, we've got two major fault lines that run through, one through the South Island, one through the north. We're a coastal nation, so we're exposed to tsunami risk. We've got lots of volcanoes, and of course at the moment we're dealing with hurricane season. So sort of the hurricane cyclone season, which are the cyclones that sort of come down from the Pacific and tend to hit us as well.
Yeah, wow. So on that one, there's one, when you make decisions, who's the people we think about, like in the table when you start making decisions on?
Quite simply, the people out in the communities that are going to be impacted, and trying to work out. Met Service and our scientists are absolutely brilliant, and they apply all of their knowledge and all of their skills and all of the science and all the data that they can gather to forecast for us. But Mother Nature does funny things, and so it's a guide. And this last weather front that came through is a classic example of that, where its behaviour was quite erratic, where it was looking like it was moving offshore and then it sort of came back in. Then we thought the eastern seaboard was going to hit, and it wrapped around the bottom and came up the middle and got Manawatu. And of course we've just been down in Christchurch dealing with Little River and Ekaroa, two small communities. And so at the forefront of everything that's going on is always making sure that we're protecting them the best way that we can from central and local government. The way that our emergency management in New Zealand is set up, it's locally led, which is the right thing to do, centrally supported. So from my side of it as the minister, I want to make sure that we can surge the right support in during a response, and that we're also getting that's following and carrying on through in the recovery as well.
It's amazing. Great. Go ahead, Martha.
You've spoken a little about. I really like the locally led, centrally supported. How do you see the role of marae, synagogues, temples, churches, all those kinds of communities in navigating and leading the responses to these crises, and how is government supporting them?
All of those that you just mentioned, Rata, really good question, are critical to a whole of society response to these events. And the best way for us to respond as a country is whole of society. And our faith groups always step up, our ethnic communities always step up, and iwi and hapu are very good at emergency management, and they're always there too when people need them, and not just their own people, but from their own marae, but the whole of the community. Yeah. So they are very good at emergency management. We've just done a lot of work on the emergency management bill, which is now in front of the Select Committee, and one of the big issues that was continually brought forward to me, and also if you look at Sir Jerry Mataparai's report to me after Cyclone Gabriel, is that our community groups, iwi hapu, rural trusts, are kind of locked out of the decision making. They don't know where to get information from, and they don't know how to feed information, and we've fixed that by codifying their position inside emergency management.
We go back to one of the portfolio of the ethnic communities. So as a minister, what's your vision to the ministry, or how you enjoying the role there and meeting different communities and things?
I love it because I was lucky enough when I was overseas for 10 years, as I worked in amongst and with and lived with a lot of the ethnic communities that have immigrated to New Zealand and now choose to make New Zealand their home. So I really enjoy that interaction, and the other opportunity it gave me is that at the moment, when you look at the amount of geopolitical instability, the amount of conflict, the amount of uncertainty happening around the world at the moment, it was a great opportunity for me to step into that social cohesion space and talk with our leaders in all of those communities and say, let's make sure that we are leading on these issues and that we don't allow any of that conflict to wash up on our shores. And so, I've had a great opportunity as the Minister of Ethnic Communities to be able to do that.
Right, and that one, social cohesion, how you think how our country is doing, where we are heading?
I think, me personally, I think we're doing very well. So we note it'd be naive to say that we don't have racism in this country. There are pockets of it, but I'd have to say small pockets that sit right through the entire spectrum, not just one group. The way to deal with that is strong leadership, and that is taking the leaders and working with the leaders from our ethnic communities or our faith groups and saying, we need to be working together, we need to be sending out a strong message, and we need to be making sure that that message filters down so that we are actually getting down to those pockets of racism or bad behaviour, and bearing in mind that we have people in New Zealand that engage in misinformation, disinformation, and are at risk of being radicalised. So we need to be proactive in how we do that. And with the in terms of ethnic communities, the best way to do that is get leaders being cohesive, working together, and talking about social cohesion, and talking about tolerance, and talking about being able to agree to disagree on issues, but be doing it in a tolerant and a respectful way. And when you get everyone talking like that and speaking like that and joined up with a message like that, that does have an effect. And so I feel proud of us as a country because I think we're doing well in terms of rejecting a lot of that bad behaviour that we're seeing overseas.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Social cohesion is very close to my heart. I did a paper for that as well.
You have done a paper on that?
Yes, recently. So I think...
Well, share your reflections on that in terms of, do you think we're heading in the right direction as a country? How do you feel?
In terms, we do have our own issues as well internally and things to deal.
Absolutely.
In the global stage, we are doing good. I can say, from my perspective, we are doing good in global stage. Internal, there's no country without issues and things. But what is good in New Zealand? Space to talk. Conversations.
I agree.
This is the things I think bring us. We will always be different. And social cohesion is not about we are all the same. is managing those differences,
Correct.
bring them together, celebrate them,
Correct.
how we can all live in one beautiful society. So in my perspective, we do have, I came especially in a background, my test from the different space that I lived. We are grateful for what we have in New Zealand. So we will want to work with everyone to make it safe, to make it like livable society, respectful society for everyone. So we are doing very well. The uniqueness is still there, but definitely there's a lot of gaps to address.
Yeah, there is. I agree.
Conversations,
And the other thing I'd say, even with you guys, with your podcast, and I often say this, is that sometimes you might feel, well, how can we actually make a difference? How many people are listening to us? Are they actually taking note of what we're saying?
Yeah.
What I often say is that change is not affected by one big moment in time or one person. It's affected by tens of thousands of these actions and these conversations. And so when you combine that all together, what you're doing, and there's hundreds of other conversations happening and actions and messaging, start to bring all that together, that's how you start to have an impact on social cohesion.
Absolutely. So that's one thing we do. I think the purpose when we bring politicians and leaders here, there's two messages here. We are also speaking in English so everyone can understand. So we come from ethnic backgrounds. So also a message that thinks it's possible in New Zealand. You sit with the minister to have a conversation, ask them the questions, to have opportunity to see. So this is something really I like about New Zealand and how accessible it is, I can say that way, how good is the people from all the political backgrounds. The intentions, is all the same, serving the country. Could be different policies in here, but that's the way to go. But yeah, that's one
thing. I agree,
do.
and I don't think we celebrate that enough.
Yeah.
I think that we get caught in a cycle of negativity, especially young people, and social media. And I was just saying to Fleur on the way here, Liam Lawson, right? We should be really proud of him, a young Kiwi. He's at he's an F1 driver, the 20 best drivers in the world, and it's very hard for a Kiwi to get themselves in there because often those drivers, part of it is the sponsorship and the money that follows them and all the rest of it. And he's made it, but he's taken himself off social media, and the reason he did that is because of the trolls and the hate that sort of festers inside that social media sort of toxic bubble. And so a lot of our young people now are exposed to that constantly. Misinformation, disinformation, trolls. It's actually and so somehow we have to find a way to be able to celebrate who we are as a country, focus on the good things, be proud of what we have. There's a lot to be proud of, and get those positive messages out there as well. Otherwise it can just end up overwhelming people.
Absolutely.
And I won't even get into mental health because that then starts to have a serious impact on people's mental health.
One thing I think that a lot of young people struggle with is feelings of disparity between the things going on in the world, obviously at a global level, but also even locally as well. They feel, a lot of young people feel very disconnected from politics and feel like their voices aren't heard. So if you had a message for young people and young listeners, what would that be?
Yeah, I understand that. They sort of, a lot of young people aren't the slightest bit interested in politics, and I know that I wasn't when I was young. But I would say that we live in a really strong, powerful, open democracy here, where you can engage. There's no barriers to engagement when you actually look at it. You can have a voice and reach out to politicians and ask to meet with them and go. You might get a pleasant surprise. Depending, it doesn't matter what side of the house they're in or what party they're in. I think you'll find that that most politicians want to engage with young people because they're like me and they understand clearly that that's our next generation that's coming through, and that actually we do have to invest in them, we do have to encourage them, we do have to give them a voice, we do have to listen to what they're saying. That should be part of what's informing us around public policy and the decisions that we're making as a country. But I think sometimes young people probably look at it and say, oh, that's just too hard. These guys aren't going to listen. They're not interested. Test it a bit. You probably find that that's not true. Is that most politicians I know want to engage with young people and hear what they've got to say. I'm very lucky through my ethnic communities portfolio that I've got lots of young people in leadership groups that come together that I get access to and I get to sit in front of and listen to. So my message would be to young people, don't be shy, step forward, engage, find a way of being able to engage in a pathway. I think they'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised that it's not as hard as what you might think it is.
Awesome.
I'm going to jump to the next one. I love you mentioning the opportunities that you get as a minister, as the Minister for Ethnic Communities, to engage with those young people. I was wondering, how has that shaped you and shaped your journey and experiences so far, kind of hearing those stories and especially engaging with those ethnic young people?
Yeah, the young people inspire me, and I'll give you an example that when I became Minister of Ethnic Communities, we were seeing globally a rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And of course, I'm very sensitive to that, and not wanting to see those sorts of really destructive behaviours manifest and grow here in New Zealand. So I immediately brought our Jewish and Muslim leaders together, and I said, how about committing to what we called the Harmony Accord? And that is an agreement between our Muslim and Jewish leaders, which was signed at Government House in front of Dame Cindy Kero, who sort of helped me with this as well. And it was just exactly that commitment to do things in a different way, to use dialogue, to use tolerance and respect in dealing with really difficult issues. Didn't mean that everyone was going to agree on everything, and there could be an agree to disagree, but it would be done in a respectful and tolerant way. And again, using that as an example, it can filter down through all of our down through society and through community. But the thing that I really loved about that is the young people stepped up, and our young Muslim and Jewish leaders stepped up in a way that was far more freer, a lack of preconceived ideas or entrenched positions, and they just come together and they work together, and they just realise and inherently understand, hey, we've got a responsibility here to make sure that we're doing all that we can as young Kiwis and young Jewish Kiwis and young Muslim Kiwis to send the right message and to be examples in terms of we're going to prioritise humanity over all that awful violence and hateful behaviour that we're currently seeing around the world. So that to me is really inspiring. And I think a big part of it is because young people have got their minds are a bit freer, they're a bit more open. They haven't picked up a whole lot of the baggage that you tend to pick up as you get older, and that you have to work your way through. And so for me, I've really enjoyed that side of the social cohesion work that I've been doing with ethnic communities.
Amazing.
Thank you, Mark.
We have time for 2 more questions. Pick your question.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Ooh, very, very different. I'm just very curious. If you had a message for your younger self, what would that be?
That's a really good question, Rata, because, I often say, and I've said to my kids, I've had a few bumps in life, but I wouldn't change anything that I did. I actually wouldn't change anything, because the reason for that is that that's how we build character. That's how we learn, and that's our journey. And so everything that's happened to me helps inform me in terms of what I do. I'm in a very privileged position because I'm a lawmaker. I lean back into my life experiences to inform me in terms of what decisions we should be making and what we should be doing. So if I was really honest to my young self, the one bit of advice I'd probably give is I wouldn't change anything. But I would say that if a opportunity presents itself, then don't dismiss it, look at it, and don't be afraid to walk through the door and give it a go. Because I think often opportunities in life come along and you almost talk yourself out of it instead of talking yourself into it. And have a go. And we hear the term imposter syndrome. We all get that. I get imposter syndrome as well. But you just got to back yourself and go for it, because sometimes you're actually better, you offer more, and you can do more than what you actually give yourself credit for. So that would be that wouldn't just be my, because there's lots of opportunities that came my way that I completely dismissed because I said, you know what, I'm not up to that. I don't have the experience or the skills or the background to do it. And when I look back on it now, you know, probably I did. It still would have been a steep learning curve. We're all learning. I'm still learning in the jobs that I have every day. But back yourself, walk through the door and have a go, have a crack at
Here
it.
we go. Amazing message.
Beautiful
Yeah.
inspiration.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been really great. We can go up a lot. Especially you have a lot of portfolio, but hopefully in the next opportunities in the future. But we have a tradition here in the podcast. We use our guest messages, which is previous guests have left a question for you. If you watch our YouTube, you will know who is it. He will not reveal it, but you will also have opportunity to write a question for the next guest.
The next
coming up.
guest, okay.
Yeah. So let's see.
Who was your last guest?
You'll have to go watch.
You have to go watch. And it's
That's
very
a good hook.
interesting.
That's a good hook,
Very
brother. Well done.
interesting.
Well done. Yeah.
Now, is this okay? I will leave it to Rat. I'll read it and ask him the question.
If you could make one change that would make New Zealand a more attractive place for young people to stay, what would that change be?
That's a really good question. I think that we've got so much to offer for young people in this country. The one thing that we need to change is home ownership. It's difficult for young people to be able to, and in New Zealand, home ownership is something that's really important to us. And so that would be the one change, or that would be the one thing that I'd really focus in on in terms of making home ownership and the ability to get onto that property ladder easier and more affordable for our young people. Because the minute you have that, you've just got an immediate sense of ownership in this country, and a sense of belonging. And I really believe in that. I really believe that home is so critically important, and when you think about it in terms of a person's life, it doesn't have to be the mansion on the hill. It can be the 3-beddy house with 1 bathroom in suburbia, but it's your little piece of land, it's your little bit of ownership of our beautiful country, and that is where everything grows from. So that would be the one thing that I think that we need to continue to work on in this country, is making home ownership and owning that little piece of New Zealand easier for young people.
Amazing. Great.
Thank you so much. It has been a huge pleasure to have you on the show, and we really, really appreciate your time. So
Thank
you
you
so much.
guys, and thanks for having me on. I just want to say that I love the format, because often in a politician's life, it's always about gotchas,
Yeah.
and you guys provide a great space.
Thank you.
Just to be able to talk. So, well done.
No, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate the time.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
made it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And thank you also for all the work you do on behalf of New Zealand as well.
Thank you,
really
brother. I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank
It's
you. It
all
means
the
a lot.
best. Elections coming as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
We have 1 minute. What's one thing you want to do next elections?
This was going to be my last term, because I want to go back up to the Middle East.
Right.
I started a project up there that I'm very passionate about, and it's emergency logistics teams, and it's basically the private sector's first responders. So areas hit by humanitarian disasters, opening up supply chains,
Yep.
and getting aid to the people that need it most. It's been very successful, but I've also seen that there's a real need for that sort of service in conflict zones, which are far more complicated. But you also find more humanitarian need, sitting inside those conflict zones as well. So I'm really passionate about that. I will one day go back and get involved in that, but I have recommitted to another term of Parliament. It's a huge privilege. I feel like there's more work to be done, and so this election I'll be out there campaigning hard, and I'll be campaigning on a proud record. This government inherited quite a few issues and problems to deal with. I'm very proud of the way that we have dealt with those head on, and that we're making progress in every area. I know that my area has been quite simply public safety, something obviously very close to my heart.
Yeah.
We were heading in the wrong direction as a country in terms of public safety. We have been able to slow that down, reverse it, and get it moving back in the right direction, and heading back towards being one of the safest countries in the world, instead of having a 33% increase in violent crime. So, emergency management obviously has been a big piece of work this year.
Right.
again, we've come a long way in a short time as a country. I'm really proud of our track record, and I'll be campaigning on that this year.
All the best then.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much
you, guys.
again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed this podcast and see you next one.
Ka kite.
Okay.